Hello again, it's Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage and talking to the folks that make the race cars go around the racetrack. We are so glad you joined us. If you like what we're doing here on Crew Call, like, share, subscribe, rate, review, whatever your platform allows you to do, please, please, please do it. That helps us spread the Crew Call gospel, and we would be grateful. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great. Coming off an awesome weekend at Darlington. Kicking off the playoffs for the Cup Series.
Darlington has evolved into, I think Fall Martinsville has historically been my favorite race. I am almost to the point where Southern 500 is on par, if not even a little bit more. I love what we have at Darlington.
It's a great way to kick off the playoffs. It stresses every level of the race team, whether it be drivers and what they've got to do to run the lines they do up there against the wall, and just track management. Crew chiefs to call in strategies and where they want to be, how short you want to be, where you want to be. We saw, I'm going to give kudos. Yeah. Travis Mack.
Great call. Great call.
First stage, Travis Mack came out and he decided, everybody talked about, you're going to split this in thirds. You're going to do 2 green flag stops. Travis Mack started deep. I think they started 30th.
They started 30th.
He says, nope, we're not having the fall off. He was the only car to go. He went and split it in half, ended up with stage points in stage 1. Really something I think everybody kind of took note of. We had a caution about at the third break point in the second stage, so we didn't play out there, but Travis Mack scored stage points. Legacy Motor Club, what a phenomenal day. 3rd and 4th in the final finishing, and that wasn't by luck, that was by racing their way there.
Yes, it was. Adam Stevens had told me, don't sleep on the splitting a stage in half. And I thought, I don't know. And sure enough, Travis Mack is the one that did it. And I'm with you. I'm not sure what stage 2 would have looked like. We had that caution, okay? Before we go any further, James Small and Chase Briscoe.
It didn't matter what strategy you wanted to call. They had a really good car.
You grow up as a little guy and you want to be a crew chief. You grow up a little guy, you want to be a race car, you want to whoop everyone's tail. Man, mission accomplished. They were just impressive. And that pit crew, you talked about every phase they hit on all 8 cylinders.
9 pit stops. The first one was a 10-second. Everything else was a 9.
Man, good stuff.
They just put the day together. They did what several of our playoff teams weren't able to do, and just we talk about this being the round that needs to be base hits. Hit it down the fairway. It's not looking for home runs, not looking for cutting the corner. Several teams made mistakes. We saw pit road issues. We saw the 20 car get into the 77, end up with damage there. We saw several cars that had loose wheels, had to back up for them. I think Chase Elliott had one that they actually, kudos to Chase, stopped him quick enough. He backed up. He didn't even get out of the box. But we saw a 40-second pit stop on the 48 team because they didn't have a gun ready. Just too many mistakes. And that's whoever is eliminated out of this round is going to look back at Darlington. I have to believe and say, I didn't do what I needed to do.
Yeah, you had all those mistakes, absolutely, and all those problems and all those trials. Yet 2 that recovered very, very well, Tyler Reddick and Billy Scott. Lap 1, well, first off, Tyler Reddick, that save was just amazing.
Yes.
They had a great recovery to a second spot. And quietly, Denny Hamlin and Chris Gale, man, they had all kinds of things they overcame, and they come out of there with a 7th place finish. You look at it, you're right. I think there's going to be some of those teams that are eliminated are going to be like, man, Darlington really killed us. You also have those on the other side of it is like, man, thank God we gutted that out at Darlington because we salvaged a good day.
Yeah, you look at it, and I agree. Denny came back to a top 10. There's some guys that came back and had decent runs out of the pieces. Austin Cindric, I thought, the best of the Penske cars. Ryan Blaney might have been, but got boxed in when Carson Hocevar got spun and lost a lot of track position. Didn't really recover it like Denny did. They were both at the back at the same time. Denny made his way forward a little bit better, but The playoff season is here.
Yeah, I know, and everything is so amplified, and it is so exciting. That is for sure.
It is. So, and we get to carry that forward into a, I want to say, gateway.
I know you started Worldwide Technology Raceway. Yes, exactly. Playoff racing in the Cup Series is up and running.
And
Playoffs
it's the cutoff race.
For the Xfinity Series. Yes, absolutely. So the driver and team we've been talking about is Connor Zilisch, Junior Motorsports. Crew Chief Mardy Lindley, he joins us next.
The NASCAR channel is available now on Tubi. 24/7 24/7 news, documentaries, with access to the exclusive NASCAR Vault. The NASCAR Channel. Always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, and let's get to it. Junior Motorsports. What a year at Junior Motorsports, and what a year for this guy. Man, Mardy Lindley joins us, crew chief for Connor Zilisch. Hello, Marty. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing?
We are doing well. Marty, I think you could write a book about your life in racing on this season. You've had races that you've been dominant. You've had races you were not even at the racetrack. You've had races where your driver was not in the race car and still won a race. How do you put your arms around just the way this season has unfolded for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we were looking back at it this week, and for me, it's really hard to process right now. I think it'll come later. We just we keep doing the same things, keep preparing the same way, and here lately we just keep winning. So it's I'm a realist. I've been around this sport a long time, and I just want to make sure the kid gets the credit that he deserves. I felt like sometimes he's had an asterisk by his name by winning a race, and I'm going to say it. I was around Kyle Larson beginning of his career in a K&N car, and I've been around this kid right here, and I think his kid's at another level. Now, I don't know if it keeps trending that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
So before Texas, you guys had one win at COTA, and the only other top 10, I think, was Darlington. You had a 6th-place finish there. Since Texas, every finish has been top 5 with, 7 wins or something like that? What changed? I mean, obviously, that was, you missed the Texas race with the injury, the back injury, which, by the way, kudos to your guys, because the impact he took at Talladega, for it to be as little of an injury as it was, that speaks for the safety stuff you guys do there. But after he came back from the missing Texas, he's been on fire. What's changed?
Well, I'm going to start just a little bit before then. So if you go back to Las Vegas, we get caught speeding on pit road. We come out in front of the leaders, and then he drives off a half a straightaway. Looks like we could have possibly won that race. And then if you go to Martinsville, we set on a pole, win both stages, and gets a little bit behind, gets torn up right after a restart, and really kind of hinders the chances there. And that's not when I think it clicked. We went to Rockingham, and he had a flat tire in the middle of 3 and 4, and still was able to set on the right rear tire was going down. And so during the race, we had an issue. We had the ratchet in the rear end. It sheared the teeth off the gears and the ratchet of the rear end, and it just didn't drive very well. And I felt like, if that race could have been clean, and up until that time, man, if we can just clean this stuff up, we're going to be in pretty good shape. And we all felt that way. And then, he goes to Talladega, he's leading on the last lap. He gets in an accident. He gets hurt. And then the next weekend, he has to go sit on a box and watch Kyle Larson win in his car. And I'm not saying it didn't flip a switch. We were already heading in that direction, but it didn't hurt. And, here we are today, and it's hard. Like I said, it's hard for me to process all of it, but I'm sure I will at some point. But right now, we're just preparing every week like we normally do, and just going up at the racetrack and, see what happens this weekend.
Marty, my initial question is, how good is he? That's kind of a dumb question. What skill sets makes him as good as he is?
Well, he can coach himself. He has the ability to look at SMT, look at all the data, make the correction, and go back there and do it himself. Nobody has to tell him. And he's really intelligent. And I've been around a lot of drivers, and for me, what makes him click and so good is how intelligent he is. And that's the biggest driving factor. He's got speed, and a lot of kids that's got speed, but he knows what to do with it, and he knows how to read data, and like I say, he can coach himself.
So in my crew chiefing career, I had long-standing relationships with drivers. In your situation, if you do your job right, they move on. Like Connor, you get 1 year with them and move on. What's that like to kind of have to go through that, knowing if you do your job right, you're letting them go?
Yes, it's got its ups and downs. Right now our whole group this is a special year. You hate to see it end. You just want to keep racing, keep racing, keep racing. But it's going to look a lot different for us next year. But we just I spent a good time with Sam Mayer. I spent 2 or 3 years with him in ARCA and K&N, and then I went on to KBM. He came to Junior Motorsports, and then I got back together with him for 2 years, and that was good too. And I hated to see Sam leave when he left, but and I'm going to hate to see Connor leave. So it's just a part of it, and I just wish him the well and the best. But in all honesty, he doesn't need to do another year at Xfinity.
No.
He's just wasting his time. He needs to go on and learn to drive those cars and just see where it ends up.
Yeah, he's gonna be special in that side. When you put together the wins that we've talked about, how much Corey Heim has been in the Truck Series, it's more impressive what he's done. Connor's done over here. Just totally impressive as you go forward. I want to talk a little bit about the injuries. What have you had to do? Broke a collarbone, scary deal. I was watching at Watkins Glen. I was up in the booth, but scary deal there. But a plate, couple screws. You've had to do some work with the seatbelts. What have you had to do to accommodate the injuries, and what do you see that going through the playoffs as you get into them?
I think right now he's healing really well. Daytona, we had to we run a different left side shoulder belt that loaded where the pressure points of the belt. It was kind of behind the collarbone, and then had padding that had a bridge built over the injury, over the scar or the cut where he had his surgery, and so we did that for Daytona, and then. We took the bridge. We run the same belt this past weekend in Portland, but we took the bridge of the padding out and just run a normal pad. And he did have a little bit of pain during the race, but it was nothing that really just aggravated him a little bit, but nothing that really hindered his driving. And actually, we're changing the other belt back to his normal shoulder belt this weekend, and I'm sure it'll be sore at times a little bit, and but it's getting better each day. And like I was telling you a while ago, it's really good to be 19 years old. They heal really fast.
Yeah, you're right about that. That is for sure. And it did not hinder him out at Portland, that's for sure. This weekend you roll into Worldwide Technology Raceway. Marty, you've had success there. You won with Corey Heim in the Truck Series a couple of years back. What types of things are on your checklist as you get ready to go racing this weekend there?
I think it's I'm not saying we're going to make it to Phoenix, but I feel like we're in a good spot to make it to Phoenix. And I think it's not exactly the same, but it's a warm-up race for Phoenix. I think a lot of the same setup procedures and setups that we run at Phoenix will apply to this weekend. And I'm looking forward to see where we stack up with the competition this weekend. It'll be a good point for what's going to come in November. So that's what we're geared towards more, maybe trying some stuff that we think will work at Phoenix there, just to see how it drives these 3 and 4. Just everything right now for us is geared on getting as many points as we can. Of course, we're in a battle with our teammate to get the 15 bonus points this weekend. So we can't, we got to focus and try to get that, because that be a big help through the playoffs and extra points, and at the same time we're looking ahead to Phoenix as well.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you if this was a prelude to Phoenix, because I feel like it's like the old Phoenix, right? 1 and 2 is more banked and tighter radius, like when we had Phoenix the other way around, and 3 and 4 a lot flatter but a bigger radius. Things that you carry forward, longer straightaways, a little more entry speed, which probably exaggerates some of the challenges of getting into the corners. I love that. You talked about you're racing your teammate Justin Allgaier for the regular season drivers championship. You've sewed up the owners championship already on the 88 side for the regular season. What's it like to race your teammate for these situations? Because JRM has been the earmark. Everybody runs for your speed. You guys have been so good. What's it like to have that challenge be internal?
Sometimes it's a lot harder because we all share the same information. Justin's going to be really good this weekend. It's going to be a challenge. I felt like we had the upper hand in Portland, and Justin's been so really, really so good, and at Phoenix that it makes me believe in. I haven't asked Justin, but I'm sure he's got races here, a lot of races here already, so he's got the upper hand a little bit as far as experience. But it's sometimes it can be challenging with teammates because you don't, you're going to race your teammate. I feel like a little bit different than you're going to race somebody else. And you can't cross the line, which, I don't think is Connor that way. Connor's not what I would say a dirty driver anyway. So it's just, it makes it harder when you're all sharing the same information and having to race your teammate with respect. You're just not trying. You're trying to win it the right way and do everything the right way. So,
Marty, Junior Motorsports 15 wins this season, and I'm gonna share a little bit of a conversation I had with Travis Quappel. He's the dad of the one that hasn't won, and Travis is like, man, Carson's doing good. He's 6th or 7th in the points. This is a really good rookie year. The problem of it is that everyone else in the building is winning. What's it like now to be in that building? We've talked about you and your team, and we've talked about this battle, but man, I'll tell you what Kelly, Dale, LW, and everyone has assembled there, it's got to be interesting to sit back as a veteran in this sport and just see what's coming out of that building each and every week.
Yeah, it's really good. I got to credit a lot of that to the engine shop. Hendricks stepped up their program. Our engines are running better this year. This is my 3rd year. I'm learning the racetracks more. And then for us on the 88 team, it's just hard. It's when you have a talent like Connor, it's just, I'm not saying it makes it any easier, but it don't hurt at the same time. And I'm just going to say it, most rookies that come through this deal, it takes them 3 or 4 years to get to the level he's at, and he's done it, he's done it in no time. So it's it really helps us and it drives us, and it's everybody here has contributed. When you're winning this much, the fab shop is looking forward to coming to work. What can we do to make these cars better? And everybody's pulling the wagon in the same direction, and you can tell it when we get to the racetrack each and every week.
I know you're not looking past any races because you wouldn't do that, but how far into the playoffs are you kind of developing and working on?
We stay almost 2 races ahead, or try to. We're working on the Bristol car right now. There's a little, we did a swap out in St. Louis to bring the Portland cars back. They're tearing them down this morning, and we'll get the inserts and finish the interiors of the Gateway cars. But, you really got to stay caught up and organized. You really got to stay at least a week ahead. And like I'm fixing to leave to go to Sim now, and we'll touch on Gateway a little bit, but really all the Sim work for Gateway is over, and we're working on Kansas and Bristol, and so we can get build sheets out and make sure that we're in line with what we need to do.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. It really, truly is, Marty, and it's been fun to watch, that's for sure. Final question for you here. You got a long history in the sport. We talk to so many people in the Cup garage about, you can't do that with this car. You can't do that with this car. This Xfinity Series car, is there still some hard, true racing things that you've learned over the course of a year, maybe even back to your driving career, that are still kind of fundamentally the same with this Xfinity car, 4 tires getting around the racetrack, or as the Xfinity Series evolved into something a little different as well?
I don't think so. I think the Xfinity car, looking back at it now, it's the cars that, to me, that make the less downforce create the best races. And, between the 2 series, we have the least amount of downforce, and the mechanical part of it's still really important. You still can do things to make them handle, and it's not all aero. And that's really makes it fun for us. You're not relying on clean air all the time. You can pass cars, and if you have a good handling race car, you can drive through the field. So that's just something that's, even the trucks are so aero dependent. When they get them in traffic, they just keep piling downforce on them, and the racing gets, when I was at KBM a couple of years ago, they were better, but they've increased the underbody on them. They're making more downforce totally, and the racing is not as good right now. And that's just how I look. I may be wrong, but coming back to this series where we have a lot less downforce, and watching how these cars race is eye-opening.
It is eye-opening. It is good stuff. Good stuff for sure. Marty, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Mardy Lindley joining us from up at Junior Motorsports. Stay with us more in just a moment.
3, 2, 1. Start your engine.
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi.
Tell them we got it.
Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory.
Go, baby.
The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
Welcome back to Crew Call. It is chatting and talking to the folks. Love talking with Mardy Lindley. What a great story. What a great history. I mean, folks, if you want to go a deep dive into someone's racing history, his lineage is really, really strong. His dad, outstanding short track racer, tragically injured and ultimately passed away because of those injuries in short track racing. Marty had a good career going as a driver. Got to that point where the funding and everything else, like, I got to go do something. I got to get a job. And he's done a really good job as a crew chief. He's made that transition from driver to crew chief very, very well.
Yeah, and he helps these young talents just develop themselves forward and get to where they are. Obviously, what he's done with Connor has been impressive. And let's speak, he defers that Connor's done all this stuff, but you got to create the environment and the culture for a driver to thrive, and he's done that very well.
Yeah, he did it with Sam Mayer prior to that. He did it at Kyle Busch Motorsports prior to that with some really good talent. Corey Heim.
Yes.
The Corey Heim we see now had a little bit of Mardy Lindley's hand on him.
I think the racer in Marty is kind of, that becomes the racer and works its way back into those young guys, and they can talk that way. And he does such a good job, and what a great run they're on, and he's still pretty humble about it.
Really, truly is cool. That is for sure. And that run continues at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Todd, when we look at this thing, Xfinity Series is going to be out there on Saturday, but the Cup Series, 300-mile race, a short race out there on this unique racetrack. Crew chief, what are you going to be looking for on the Cup side here as we go racing on Sunday afternoon?
I think Marty talked a little bit. There's a lot of Phoenix in this place. It'll be different for Cup because this is 1.25 miles, so they run the intermediate aero package. There's more downforce on the car here, more like what you'd have at your 1.5 miles than the short track simple diffuser that we run other places. So things I'm going to look for how you manage the race, how good your car is in the braking zones into the corners. Mm-hmm. Turn one, that to me is one that we always challenge with. Having enough rotation to actually roll around 3 and 4, that's a big deal. So different corners, different pieces there. Again, we've got to not have issues. We talked about in the Open that so many teams had issues at Darlington. You can't afford that. You've got to, especially a short race like this. You talked about Denny Hamlin had the issue and recovered to 7th. You won't have the opportunity to do that in a 300-miler. That's going to be tougher. We had 500 miles at Darlington.
Right. That's
so you got to be on. You're going to have less opportunities on pit road, but you got to take advantage of everyone you've got.
Downshifting twice into turn number 1, once into turn number 4. The challenges of Worldwide Technology Raceway is fun. We kick it off at 4:30 on Saturday afternoon. NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying. 7 o'clock Eastern Time Saturday night. It is the season finale, regular season finale for the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the Enjoy Illinois 300 for the NASCAR Cup Series. Our airtime Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. We would love to have you join us on the Motor Racing Network. He is Todd Gordon. I am Steve Post. We appreciate Mardy Lindley joining us. More important, though, than all of that, thank you for joining us here this time on Crew Call on the Motor Racing Network.